Hello and welcome to Tryon Palace Live. I am the historic costumer here at the Palace. My name is Leslie Lambrecht, and we're going to talk a little bit about face coverings today, face masks in particular. And I want to give a big shout out to all of you around the country who have taken your sewing skills and made masks for your family, for your community, your hospitals, various healthcare workers. I have done some of that. Some of my volunteers have done some of that. There's actually a community a little south of here called Carolina Colors, and they got their whole entire community together and made about 6,000 masks. So, you know, good on them. I know we've all picked up that call, those of us who have the skills, and some have even taught themselves how to sew in order to make masks, which is really quite wonderful. So to make the masks, I actually have I watched a number of tutorials. There are hundreds of them out there, and I found something that I liked and I wanted to do. And it basically starts with two 6x9 pieces of fabric, and you want a tightly woven cotton. We'll go over that in a little bit. And you need two strips of fabric that are 1.5 inches wide, and usually it's good if they're at least 18 inches long. 20 is good as well. And so what you do to start off is you take a 1/4 inch seam on the long side of the fabric, and on most sewing machines the edge of the presser foot is going to be your 1/4 inch. So you're going to back tack that and do a 1/4 inch seam on both of the long ends of the fabric. So once you do that, you're going to then turn your fabric tube so that it's right side out and both ends are sewn. Then what I usually do is I take my little strap, go halfway down, and place that little north of center on the piece. And then I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to make my tucks. And I usually just do a little bit of a finger fold. Let me do another one here. And I'm just folding it up, bringing the strap down so that when you stitch it, it's all one, and you have tucks in your mask for flexibility. So you do that on both sides, and you come up with this. And then this is where I get, because I'm a costumer and I've been sewing for years, and I kind of take some quick exits out of places. I'm folding down a little bit of the strap and then doing a fold like you would see on a piece of bias tape, and then folding it again. And this way I can just do one line of stitching and it's all tucked in. And as you continue on, you just continue with that fold right along the edge, and it all seams in. Make sure that as you get to the mask itself, you're covering all the raw edges. And, you know, I like I said, I've been sewing for quite a long time, well over 30 years. And I kind of do this second nature. Some people, if it takes you longer, if you find a different mask tutorial that you like, go for it. I know some of you use elastic in your masks, and that is wonderful. Gives them a lot of adjustability. So that is one earpiece down. And then if you go, I'm going to finish this off. I started this earlier, you know, the magic of television, it's always a good thing. I felt like being a Julia Child about this. So once you get the second side done, you can clip all your threads and you have a mask. Now, this is a very basic mask. This is an old style mask. If any of you remember old medical television programs, you would actually tie this around the back of your head, and it makes for a tight fit. However, one of my friends, and I forget who it was, decided to do something else with her earpieces and actually tied them in loops so that it is easy on and easy off, which makes for a really nice thing. And then you still have the tight fit earpieces if you need them. So that is masks in a nutshell. There are many ways, many styles, but the CDC had always recommended that you use a tightly woven cotton. And I'm going to talk a little bit about fibers because a lot of people don't always understand fibers and understand their properties as to why we use them for different things. Now, cotton retains the strength when wet, and that's really good property to have. So it is just as strong wet as it is dry, and not every fiber is going to be that way. So you want something that's going to do that. It does withstand rough handling. It stands abrasion and high temperatures. So if you're going to boil it or put it through a medical autoclave, it will stand up to those high temperatures. That is very important for the medical community. It's one of the reasons why I chose not to use elastic in the masks that I was making because elastic will break down with heat over time. It's also because we are an historic site and I don't really have a lot of elastic available to me. Cotton is also hygienic because it can be easily cleaned. Most of us have cotton t-shirts, cotton clothes, and we just throw them in the wash and they will actually come nice and clean when we wash that. Now the next fiber I'm going to talk about is linen, and linen has a high breathability. It is actually twice as strong as cotton. It is antibacterial, and that is all well and good, and you think, well, why don't we make these masks out of linen? Well, one of the problems with linen is it does not stand up to rough handling. The way the fibers are, while they are strong, when dry, they're not always as strong after you've boiled them. They lose some of their elasticity. Also, nowadays, linen is much more expensive than cotton. It is harder to care for. When you wash it, it just turns into a wrinkled mess. And while we use that on site for our historical clothing because they ironed everything like crazy, it does not do well if you're trying to make a bunch of masks. It's expensive and the care is a little prohibitive. Our next fiber is going to be wool. This, of course, comes from sheep. The other two come from plants. So the wool is taken, sheared off the sheep, carded and whatnot. Wool is not even as strong as cotton. Now, a lot of us have wool clothing for the wintertime, and you think, well, this has been with me for ages, whereas my cotton has worn out over time. And that's just because the wool that you're getting for your winter wear is much more dense weave than what you're seeing in your cotton. It does not like heat and steam, so it is very hard to put into an autoclave or to keep clean, and it is damaged by acids and alkalides, so anything bleach or vinegars or anything in that, you don't want that anywhere around your wool. The last fiber, and wool is also expensive as well. Silk, well, we all love silk and it makes great clothing, not really going to make great masks. It is as strong as cotton. It will actually stand up to acids, and it actually is more lusterful when you go and dye it with acids. And it does have a resistance to mildew. However, if you leave it in a rot-producing condition, too much heat, too much moisture, it will actually rot. It is a cocoon from the silkworm, and it takes a lot to harvest the silk and everything, so it is a very, very expensive fiber and really not a good thing to use for your masks. We have some bamboo. Bamboo is typically not a historic fiber, so we don't use it on site, but it is a new fiber that is really good and really strong. It is antibacterial, it is breathable, it is strong like cotton, and so if you do find some nice bamboo fabric that you want to use, it actually probably would make a good mask as well. So, if we want to do things, a lot of this information, if you want more information on textiles and their properties, textilelearner.blogspot.com is a really great resource. They have published papers on there and all sorts of things, and you can find out just about anything you want to know about fibers. And so while we're doing this, and we've been self-isolating and all of that while we've been here around the country, and a lot of people at the beginning were talking plague, and nobody really likes to use the plague word, but it comes up every once in a while. So I wanted to briefly talk about the plague doctors of old. And so what did the plague doctors look like? I have a couple of artwork here. What you normally see in the plague doctor is you're going to see the long coat, the beak-like mask, a top hat, and I wanted to explain a little bit about why he was wearing these particular garments. The coat that he wore was actually waxed. It was a waxed cloth. So why would they go and bother to do all that waxing onto a coat? Well, it was very simple. You're going to be getting bodily fluids on you, and it was a good way to be able to rinse off your coat, keep it clean. The fluids don't actually get into the fibers of the coat. So it was waxed and it was cleaned periodically, and it helped protect the wearer from all of the bodily fluids. The mask has always been the intriguing thing. Sometimes there were spectacles on the outside. Sometimes there was glass sewn into the eye holes it just depended on the person wearing the mask and how they chose to do that. But the beak protrusion that you see was usually filled with herbs and botanicals to help with the smell of the places that they were going. A lot of times it is back in the 17 and 1600s, 1700s, they thought that the miasma school of science was that if it smelt bad, you could catch something from it. And in a way, you know, decay, rot, all of that, yes, it does smell bad and it tells you to stay away. But they thought it was actually the smell that was transferring the sickness from one person to another. And so they would pack the beak of the nose with herbs and sweet-smelling things so that the air was purified as it got to the doctor himself. As we all know, it helps a little bit, but it doesn't really help everything. He was wearing a hat to denote that he was a gentleman. A gentleman would always have a hat on, and once again, that was most likely a waxed thing. The cloth that the face mask was made out of was also waxed. I did not really think about this until I did some research, but the rod that he is holding, and you will see just about every plague doctor holding a rod like that, and that is because that was something to keep you away, to keep people at a distance, to poke at things if he needed to poke at things, but it was a distant stick. Now, probably in today's world, it's not a good reason to carry a stick and go poke at people. Nobody likes being poked at. But it was a very good thing back in that time to help keep distance away. Excuse me. So we do have the 3 W's here in North Carolina, I think surely elsewhere around the country. Wear a face covering, wait 6 feet apart, wash your hands often. All that is very important. We don't want to have to go to plague masks again because they're just not really good looking. So this is actually an extant photograph of a plague mask from the 1700s. As you can see, you would really be frightened if someone showed up at your house looking like that. So one last thing, and then I'll take some questions. This Saturday is National Sewing Machine Day, so be good to your sewing machines. They'll be good to you. If you haven't cleaned or oiled your machine lately, please do so. Regular maintenance is very important. If you keep it happy, it will keep you happy. Change your needle. If you can remember the last time you changed your needle, then fine. But most of us can't remember the last time we changed our needle, so change your needle. And sew something fun. I'm not sure what I'm planning on doing this Saturday, but I'll try to pick a fun project. I think I've got a few at home. So I am ready to take some questions. Rob, are there any questions?
First one, you have a fan, Kim Ellis. Says,
Hi, Kim.
Leslie, we want Leslie, we want Leslie.
Well, thank you, Kim, and I miss you too. But we're having fun down here, so you need to come and join in the fun down here.
Dennis says, are we producing masks with Tryon Palace emblem on it?
No, we are not. One of the things that I had done when I was producing masks earlier in the season, if you will, was I was donating them to the hospital, to various healthcare workers, and I did not necessarily feel that putting the Tryon Palace logo on it was, while it may be good advertising, was a little self-serving. I just wanted people to have face protection. However, if the need arises if people want us to put, I have a bunch of little labels that have our Tryon Palace logo on them, and I suppose I could sew those into some masks if we really felt the need.
Aaron Langley says, miss you, Leslie Lambrick.
Oh, Aaron, I miss you too. And I hope you're doing well where you are, and wearing your face covering and all of that good stuff. One of the good things about working here at the Palace is the people that you work with. And we've worked with some pretty amazing people, and sometimes they leave to go on to other things. I'm sorry. And I'm talking really fast. It's a habit of mine, and so I will slow down. But yeah, we get to work with some really amazing people. We have a lot of amazing people on board. Other people go off to do other things, but it's good to keep in touch. So, anything else?
Somebody's, Aaron,
Right.
Aaron is asking, can you show me up close how you sewed the ties in? It looks like you sewed them in while doing your pleats.
I am sewing them in while doing my pleats. Did you want to? Okay. Let me find that. Okay. Let me get back to that. Okay. So, as you can see, it's flat right now. And I'm finding somewhere near the center. I'm going to put, because I kind of want the center ending up there. And what I do is I turn up the fabric, the strap, and I make a pleat and pull the fabric back down. Sew a little, push the fabric up, do a pleat, pull the fabric back. Do my third pleat, pull the fabric back down, and that way it's all sewn and ready to go into, when we sew the other side of the binding down, it can all be encased. Okay, I hope that helps. When you go to the other side, if you're pinching them up, when you go to the other side, you're going to pinch them down. Otherwise, they're going to be doing weird and opposite things. But I have found that that is, to me, the easiest way to get the pleats into your masks while you're doing them. I hope that helped.
Dennis has made a comment. Hemp was used for rope in the 18th century. Was it ever used for clothing fabric?
It was used for fabric. It was used for canvas fabric. It was not really used for clothing. Because of the roughness of the fiber, it did not make very good cloth for wearing. But it was very durable. It's probably the strongest of the fibers. I did have some notes on jute. Yeah, it is the strongest of the fibers. It can go anywhere from twice as strong as cotton to 8 times as strong as cotton. But in the 18th century, they could not refine it as well as they can today, and so it did not make good clothing, but it made great sails, it made great rope, and things like that. So.
The recently accepted to the nursing program, Karina Jones.
Congratulations, Karina.
Would the shoes of plague doctors most likely be waxed also?
More than likely, just because it was easier to clean things that were waxed than not. So most of the leather shoes would have been would have been kind of protected anyway, just because of what you're going through. But the plague doctors probably did a little more waxing of their shoes to make sure that it was not, they were not carrying anything in and could easily have cleaned their footwear. So I don't know that for certain, but that's what I'm guessing. If they took the time to wax everything else, they'd wax their shoes too. So.
Aaron said, awesome, that helped a lot.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad that did help. Like I said, we were, me and one of my volunteers, we produced a little over 200 masks. I found this the easiest way to do it, especially when you're trying to get a lot of them done. It was just easier to pleat as you go rather than taking time, and yeah, so.
And Dennis made a last comment. Many thanks. Too bad hemp was so rough.
Yeah, and it would have been really nice, but usually at that point they were using a linen because linen could be refined easily. It was stronger than cotton, and so you find a lot more linen clothing from the time than you find of cotton in the 18th century. I'm talking. And so as things progress in this country and other countries, cotton kind of takes over. But yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to do some jute clothing, but we've got it now, so.
And one final comment from Karina. Thank you, Leslie. You are awesome.
Well, thank you. Everybody else is awesome too. I really want to thank all of the stitchers across our country that took their time and made masks for their communities and, you know, bringing us together. It's a good thing. So be safe and be well. Thank you.
If you have any comments or questions that you think of later, put them in down below and we'll do our best to answer them.
Thank you.